Welcome in, Panther fans. It's the best pod of your day. Our weekly podcast talking about Panther football, just like head coach Todd Stepsis and his staff try to be the best part of their players' day. We'll try to bring you the best Panther content we can. Coach, thanks for making the time. Busy time of year, fun time of year. I know you love when the team can get back to camp. It's like, as you've said, it's like Christmas for you when you can focus on ball.
Yeah, it's funny how fast the days go, too, because they're so packed. But, you're listening to the title of this podcast, you guys are the creative ones, really, really awesome. But, initially, we want the best part of our players' day to be with us. But, it always happens this way, is the best part of our day is also with them. And so I can't express how grateful we are as a staff, where we have a lot of energy, we have a lot of fun. We try to keep things light. On the down times, we focus in and we coach hard on the on times. But man, the players are so much fun to be around. They come in with smiles every single day, and they might be enjoying the football part, but we're enjoying their company just as much.
Each week, Coach Stepsis will join us. We'll also be joined by a player guest. For this first episode, a captain for this year and a senior linebacker, Tucker Langenberg, will join us coming up. But before we get to that, Coach, let's talk about camp in general. You've got nearly 2 weeks by the time people see this under your belt of camp. What's one or two things that's impressed you about the way your team has gone about their business of a fall camp so far?
It's just energy. I mean, which is not surprising, when you have a team that I think, when I think of our superpower, we've gone through some difficult times, so a rough year a year ago, a coaching change. I mean, all this newness, I think, can sometimes be a challenge, and that's your true character shows, when adversity strikes. And so, for us to be still standing, to want to be our best, there's just an infectious energy that's at practice every day. There's an energy right from the jump. When we have our first team meeting, man, there's a buzz. I look around the room, and there's not a whole lot of faces and phones. People are talking. We had a funny question today, and we were all debating on, which guy on the team wouldn't you let date your daughter, and which guy you would. And so, again, back to talking about the fun parts of our day being together. That's really what it's been, man. The attitudes have been infectious. It's been a really competitive camp. Guys are really going for it. They see, the light at the end of the tunnel as far as the season. I think a lot of times other sports maybe don't understand, the amount of preparation that goes into the few opportunities that a football team has. Where, I mean, any other sport, you can play a pickup whenever you want. And where for us, man, we got these 12 guaranteed games, and hopefully more. But shoot, we spend January through now and through August preparing for those 3-hour blocks, that we're going to get on these Saturdays coming up. So they see that light at the end of the tunnel. They're really excited about it. But what I do really appreciate for them is they know that, we can't look so far ahead. Well, we really got to focus on today and what the next thing is. So, we're filming this right after our PM walkthrough. The next thing is dinner. So, okay, let's get over. Let's have a great dinner. Let's have some conversation, enjoy one another. We have our team meeting, which, again, is less about football and more about, getting to know who we are and what we can be together. And it's being great at that. And I love how we have a short-term focus on being great where our feet are.
When you look at guys that have performed units, whether it's position groups or whatever, offense, defense, throughout the year, we'll give some pats on the backs out of games, and folks can follow along with that. Who would you put up there so far for some pats on the back that you'd like to recognize from your team so far in camp?
It's not because he's just sitting here, but our two captains, I got to give them a shout out, because I think they have a more difficult job than anybody, so obviously they're kind of put on a pedestal. The team looks up to them. They are going to watch them very, very closely. So they have to have even more discipline than what we demand of the team. They have to do everything right. They have to set a great example, and they have to figure out how to elevate everybody else. So not only are they trying to be their best individual selves, but being captains, like their job is to make sure that everybody else follows suits and that they raise the floor of our program. So like Tucker's done a great job on defense. I don't want to put any pressure on him, but if he's not one of the league leaders in tackles, like we must not have done a very good job coaching him or getting him in the right place, because I think linebacker's a fun position where there's a lot of coaching and technique involved, but then there's also a lot of feel involved to it. And he's got a great feel on, hey man, I can be a physical guy and run through this block. I can be athletic and slippery enough to go under it, over top of it, and he very smart. I think that's the other thing with linebackers, the ones that know ball. They can see things happening before they happen. They do a great job pre-snap of that homework of trying to get a tip or a tail to get you an extra step. He's done a phenomenal job with that, and that side of the ball is, again, they're around the ball a lot, and we talk about the formula for winning: takeaways, explosive plays, and finishing a game in the fourth quarter. And our defense has had their hands on the ball a lot. Now, offensively, you don't necessarily like seeing all those turnovers at times, but at the same time, right now they don't count. And that's something I tell those quarterbacks, like, now's the time to take a chance. If you think you fit in that window, let it rip. And if it doesn't work, now just put that in the back of your mind, so you know that, okay, well, that throw didn't work then. It shouldn't happen. Probably shouldn't try that one in a game. And then offensively, Derek Anderson. I mean, he's kind of come out of his shell. He's been more of a quiet guy. At least since I've known him. I haven't known him that long, and maybe this is the way he's always been. But he was pretty reserved up until recently, where, boy, he's having a lot of fun at practice. If he makes a good play, you can see it in his emotions and his actions, and feels like the team is really feeding off of that. And again, tight end, I think, is a really tough position to master, because you are essentially a couple different positions. Like, we ask you to block, and sometimes it's point of attack, sometimes it's on the backside. We ask you to be able to run a route tree, and we ask you to get open against skilled guys and bigger guys. And then, by the way, when that ball is in the air, you got to have great ball skills to go up and tear it out of the air. So Derek has shown all of those kinds of things. But again, like Tucker, what makes him special is who he is. I think that, he played both ways last year in the trenches. I keep telling, some of these pro scouts that are stopping by practice, like, yeah, Travis Hunter, that's cool. But, here's a guy that was sticking his face in the fan, 100-plus snaps a game. And so, like, you got to be another level of tough to do that. And Derek, again, like, there's the physical side there, but also just the discipline and the mental toughness. He's making great choices and setting a great example.
When you look at your guys on the whole, maybe coming down from those captains, setting the example and things like that, what do you want the focus to be to finish camp strong? You got 2 more weeks to get to that first game, that light at the end of the tunnel. What has to be the focus that you guys are preaching from the top down that you want to see?
Boy, we talk a lot about our mission, and that's just, okay, how can we create this brotherhood and this experience that's going to be, one of the best things we've ever done in our lives that's going to help us become champions. And so, I kind of hit on it a little bit earlier. It's focusing on the now. It's focusing on being the best me. And a lot of people ask all the time, like, how many games you think you're going to win? When are we going to get back to the playoffs and all these kinds of things? And yeah, all that stuff's important. But I like to sell our why and our purpose. And our purpose as coaches and our purpose on this program is, man, to leave it better than we found it. And so to me, that's just that's a general philosophy and a general mindset. But, man, every single day when I look in the mirror, my goal is, like, when I go to bed, that guy's better, than when I started. And so then we look at our team. How can our team become better every single day? And that needs to be the focus. The minute we start looking ahead to week 1, week 2, first conference game, I think we start to miss out on those little opportunities. We talk all the time on the team, man, just – those doing those common things in an uncommon way, that's what leads to greatness, and that's what great teams do, is they pay attention to those details, and those little things really matter.
The last thing before we get to Tucker, for you, as you are new, right? You hit the ground running in December. You had a lot of different things to do with whether it was recruiting or whatever and getting to know everybody, and then you go into the different phases of spring and eventually get here. Have you had time to kind of settle in and enjoy the area and now get your family here? How's that part going for you, along with everything else that you have to do football-wise?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, because for the good part of 7 months, I was in a vacant retirement home. So while that was fun, it was
I feel like you could write like a horror novel in there.
The first week I was jumpy in there. I'm going to be honest. Every time I'd see a reflection or hear a noise, I'm kind of like, All right. It's terrible to say, but I'm sure there's been some people that have passed away in this building, and hopefully they've moved on to a better place. But we just moved into our house down in Waterloo. Gosh, a little over 2 weeks ago now, and just having the family up here. Back on Saturday, we got a chance to have all of our position players over to our house. Now, for me, quarterbacks, that's 6 guys. So, we had some of the EQ staff, we had some of the video staff, creative, came over, Carson came over. So, we were able to add some more people. But, just to have them over to our house. Was our house done? Not at all. I mean, there's still pictures that are like propped on the wall, not necessarily hung up. There's still some boxes everywhere. But just having people over the house, being able to wake up and see my wife and kids every day, to when I get home at night, to be able to watch a show. That was one of our traditions there, as we watch like a quarterback episode or a Hard Knocks episode. A year ago or a couple years ago. So now to be able to do that again is a lot of fun. And so just finally getting the crew here, and I told our players this too. One of my favorite things is having my kids being around our team, because, I think, number one, my girls love it. I mean, they love being around our players. They love messing around with them, pointing out some things to make fun of them. And, but at the same time, I think it's really cool for our team, because, okay, here's an opportunity for me to make an impact on somebody that, where I could make a difference. And I do believe that the foundation of any program, any organization, any team, that's what it's all about, is how can I make an impact? How can I make a difference? And, our team does that with, our children, Coach Smith, myself, having our kids around. We love it because our kids love it, but then I also love it because it's an opportunity for our older guys to see, like, hey, these little people are really looking up to me, and I want to make them proud, and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to show them the right way. So it's pretty neat.
Well, Coach, looking forward to these chats throughout the year, this show. Looking forward now to get Tucker Langenberg on the show. Back with more. The best part of your day continues with Tucker Langenberg after this. All right, best part of your day, episode 0 here. We got week 0, so we've got episode 0 of the new Panther Football Podcast with head coach Todd Stepsis, and happy now to be joined by Tucker Langenberg, senior linebacker. Tucker, it is just it's fun to see you at this point now in your career. Before we jump into our 3 main topics that we'll have for you guys this year, what's camp been like for you? What's been a highlight for you of getting back to it here in this your senior year and as a captain?
Yeah, I mean, first I just want to say thanks for having me on, but getting to your question now, I mean, camp, Steph and the new staff, we've always talked about, we want football to be the best part of your day. And for me, that's something that's really been true. I can say that I've been having fun at camp, offense, defense, both sides are making plays. We're going back and forth. So it's been fun at practice. Some of our meetings, we joke around, we like to have fun. So that's good. But more or less for me, it's just being able to be around the guys, getting an opportunity to lead some of those younger guys and show them how things go, and kind of, be able to set a new culture and a new path of where we are now versus where we want to be.
All right, let's jump into it then. So you're down the road when you're in your schooling goes, 5th fall here, right?
Correct.
So you've seen and done a lot. Where are you right now with school? What's a day like for you going to be like this fall? What are you working towards, and what you've got on the academic side? Yeah,
so I'm glad you asked. This last would have been spring. I just graduated with a business administration degree. So kind of this fall, we'll be starting my master's. So I'll be starting a MAOM. It's a Master's of Organizational Management. And I do plan on finishing both years out, so I will be here for the next 2 years. So for this fall, really, I can't really give a great picture of what it's going to look like due to me being in grad classes. But this last spring, I did have a heavy schedule. I ended up being in 22 credits. So, that's 7 classes. None of them were online. So I had my fair share of work cut out for me in terms of the classroom. But, the classroom for me is something that I've never I've never struggled with. It's never been, what's the hardest part of your day? The hardest part of my day is football, not school. I can go to class any day, sit there, pay attention, take notes, study, prepare to do well in an exam. But yeah, so it was crazy busy, 7 classes. My Tuesday, Thursdays, I was in the business building from 9:30 to 1:45, and during spring ball is right over to meetings that started at 2. So, between sitting in 3 classes on those days and having to bring lunch to eat at the business building, I mean, it was definitely a change up for me for, having taken 12 to 15 credits in the past, all of a sudden jumping up to 22 to make sure I can graduate on time, which is something that I did want to do. But I mean, it was busy. I made the most of it, ended up having a really good GPA and finishing out the semester strong, and then walked across the stage for graduation, and now we're here.
Now we are here, ready for football again. All right, let's go all the way back then, all the way back to the Urbandale days. Yeah. And before you were a Panther here, walk us through a little bit of what that was like growing up there, favorite thing about your hometown, favorite thing about being from that part of Iowa where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Urbandale, I mean, there's a bunch of things I could say. I guess the first thing I'll say is, it's a relatively similar town to Cedar Falls, has the same sort of feeling to it. Grew up in Urbandale, lived in Urbandale, was there my whole life. My older brother Ty, both my parents, were just that was home for us. But yeah, so I mean, we lived about 15 minutes from the high school. My elementary school was just down the road, so that wasn't too bad. Riding the bus or whatnot. It's I was only a mile from the school, but I was the last guy off the bus in elementary school. So it was all weird how that worked out. But yeah, middle school and high school are real close to each other, and was fortunate enough to be around some really good people throughout my years and my time in middle school and high school that really kind of developed me into not only the person I am today, but the player I am today, and the person who I really was in the weight room. So Urbandale for me, I really have nothing bad to say about it. I go back on weekends when I can and catch up with my parents, and when my brother's in town when he's not playing ball, I'd like to sit down, catch up with him. But yeah, I mean, I really nothing but good to say about Urbandale.
Got you both here, and Coach, I'll bring you in on this angle before we go to your motivation. I know your parents are super involved in getting the rest of the parents together.
Yes, they are.
Coach, how important is that for you as the head coach to have families that are like that and are going to bring a different kind of energy in a different way that you can't always be a part of, and even the players can't always be a part of, but know that it's a very real part of the program when that kind of stuff can happen?
That's massive. I mean, think about any team. Who cares the most about that team? It's going to be the parents. Me as a parent. Now I've got a 12 and a 9-year-old, so it's not to the same caliber as if they were in college and I'm watching them play at Division I level. But man, some of the best times of my life are watching my girls at a gymnastics meet or at a softball game or at a volleyball match or whatever. And to have our parents as involved and invested, and because of your mom is phenomenal, you need somebody to rally the troops. Somebody's got to step up and kind of take ownership and lead, just like Tuck's done for us. And to have that group that's just they're involved, they're invested, similar to our alumni. I mean, we're starting to now bring some alumni back, and another group that cares very deeply about Panther football. So to have those two groups to be involved, and then my next thought is that give them intermingled a little bit. I think it could be a game changer for us. Has
that been fun for you, Tucker, to see develop with your mom and your parents and kind of your family getting involved in the program as they have over the years?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, obviously my mom's super involved, but both my parents, they're super big supporters of me, and even bigger supporters of this team and everybody that's involved. So it's funny sometimes when my mom tells me something that I didn't know because she may have heard it from Steph or someone else. So that's always interesting where I'm like, that's weird. But I think it's really cool that they're that involved and they're that willing willing to spend that much time to support me and what I have going on. And not only me, I know everyone else on the team appreciates it, and everyone else's parents, and that they can stay connected and informed with what's going on with the team, whether that be in the winter and especially now even throughout fall camp. I know you send out weekly emails. I've heard good feedback from former players that I've played with. It's like, hey, we appreciate that email. And then obviously from other guys in the team just hearing, hey, we hear your mom's doing a lot, we hear your parents doing a lot, we appreciate it.
If you're a Panther alumni and you're watching this and you haven't gotten those emails, you can get it. Get in touch with Coach. Get in touch with Owen in the office. They will get you on the list and get you those emails because there's a lot of good stuff in there. All right. Coach talked about it in our first segment about how much work goes in for 12 games a year, how much work goes in for a football calendar year. Got to take a lot of motivation with that to commit like you and every other Panther does. What's been your biggest motivator to keep going when it was tough when you were, the freshman coming in and knew you weren't going to see the field, to now when you're going to be an impact player? What's been the motivating factor for you throughout all that?
Yeah, I think there's, quite a few motivating factors for me, but I think the number one thing that stands out is my love for football. The one thing that I love about football is that every play is going to be different. Each play is going to be different. It's never going to play out the exact same. So for me, I enjoy the challenge. So, whether that starts as soon as we're done in the fall and that starts in winter and in the weight room, it's me looking forward to, okay, I'm going to get an opportunity to challenge myself on the football field, whether that be, and sometimes it's not even on the football field. We just talked to in the classroom. I was on a few more credits. That was challenging me too, but the challenge is something that really brings me back. It's, when we're out there on game day and, being able to make a play because I prepared in the right way, and I know that because I did everything I should have in the weight room that leads to success on the field. I'd say that's probably the main driver for me.
All right, let's jump into some lightning round questions. This is when we really can find out about our Panther players. I'll get us started here. All right, let's. I've always wondered this. Obviously, there's a lot of talent on anybody that takes the field. You've got a lot of talent. What's a hidden talent that maybe people don't know about, whether it's a different sport you played, a little thing you've always been able to do? What's a hidden talent for Tucker Langenberg?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing I said at Media Day. I bowled in high school, so I know it's not it's super, you wouldn't expect someone like me to probably bowl in high school, but I had a couple buddies that were on the bowling team, and I'd wrestled from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, and my dad was a huge wrestling fan and loved wrestling, and I had, truth to be told, I kind of had enough of it, and I was like, hey, you know what, I don't enjoy the practices, I don't enjoy the meets, and my parents came up to me and they're like, hey, you know what, if you don't think you're gonna compete in a winter sport, you're gonna have to find a job. And I was not about that. So got connected through one of my brother's friends who had bowled in leagues and whatnot. He's like, hey, just come out and give it a try. You can still work out. He played football with me, so he's like, you know what, we can still do all the football workouts. Just come have fun with me in the afternoons. And more or less kind of started as a joke, and then ended up somewhat taking it serious and getting pretty good at it, and ultimately just being able to lift and have fun bowling in the afternoons. It was something that was definitely unique for me.
That's great. I love the facts. That's why I like you so much. I had the same rule growing up. As long as I was playing a sport, I didn't have to get a job. But who's the better athlete, you or Ty?
Oh, me.
Oh.
Yeah, there's only one right answer there.
Oh.
There's only one right answer there.
Okay. I've coached a lot of baseball guys, and those guys always just had a knack. They maybe weren't the fastest or the strongest or jumped the highest, but they always made things look easy. And I know your brother's a really good baseball player, so that's why I was kind of curious, who's the best athlete there.
Yeah. As much as we were baseball players, we were both POs. So, when we weren't pitching, we were kind of just sitting there eating seeds. Right. If we had to, we could have.
Yeah.
All right, let's go food. What's one food you can't live without?
Ooh, first thing that comes to mind would be steak and eggs. I think that's one of my favorite meals. I know it's something that's very good for you, but yeah, I'd say steak or eggs, one of the two.
Together, that's the ultimate protein meal.
That's the ultimate meal.
So alive or dead? who would you want to share that steak and eggs with?
Ooh, alive or dead? I think I would go with, some of my past family members, some of my grandparents that, I didn't really get to know that well. Some family members that passed early where I only have a select few memories. I think, those would be the first people that I would go for.
Man, such a nice guy. Like, I would have been like, Mike Singletary or Dick Butkus or one of those guys. Yeah, your family. Like, you're
family
awesome.
Comes first.
You're awesome.
Love that. Morning person or night person?
Ooh, night person.
Okay.
Night person. Had to get used to that when I got here as a freshman. It was, I'll be the first to admit that I wasn't great with time management when I first, in high school, and it was an adjustment. And once I got here, it's like, all right, you're either gonna do what they say, or you're not gonna be here. So it's like, I became a morning person, but definitely if I get the chance to stay up late, I will.
So was there a moment or a person, like you always, I love the question that gets asked sometimes, like, what would you tell your younger self knowing what you know now? And so, like, you obviously made a transformation from, and again, a lot of 18-year-olds are slappies. Like, they show up and they really don't know what to do, and that's, again, one of the best parts of our jobs as coaches is we get to be a part of that transformation from slappy to superstar. And so, like, was there something or someone or like, what made that happen for you?
That's a great question, actually. I think, if I had to attribute it to a couple of people, I'd say my high school head coach, Sam Anderson. He was a big part of football for me. He was a big part of recruiting, setting up my Twitter, talking to people, learning how to talk professionally to these coaches in a way to market yourself. And then, the next person I'd say would be Pete Traynor. He was my high school strength coach, just actually got named head football coach down at Urbandale. So congrats to him. But I'd say both of those guys were really big in my, of me really growing up and becoming a man. It's like, all right, like, this is what to expect, this is what to do, this is what not to do. And, they kind of just left it to me. It's like, all right, now you choose. And I either listen to someone who knows more than me or pretend that I know more than them. And in that moment, I knew that I didn't know more than them. So it's like, there's only one right answer here, and that's to follow what they say.
That's good.
One second. Doing it again. All right. A couple more, Tucker. Let's go. This could be deep psychologically, but
yeah.
If you could be an animal, or if you were an animal, what animal would you pick?
Ooh, I think my spirit animal's a lion, so I'll have to go with the lion.
Lion?
King of the jungle.
That's what you want your linebacker to be, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Don't need a sheep out there.
That's pretty good. All right, so if you wanted to be a lion, what about do you have like a secret superpower you wish you had?
Secret, like as a person or as a lion, or both?
Oh man, maybe that's a superpower, to be able to transform into a real lion. But I don't know, is there something like, I hear sometimes like, when I think of a superpower, like, well, it'd be great to be able to fly. Some people talk about like it'd be great to teleport, where I don't have to sit in a car for 8.5 hours to get to Cincinnati to see family. I can just snap my fingers and I'm there. So I don't know, there's something secret superpower you wish you had?
I mean, I think everyone always tries to go with I want to read people's minds, but at the same time, it's like, I don't really know if I want to read people's minds. I think being able to travel places fast, and it'd help, mitigate the time that you spend on the road in the car. It's like, hey, if, when spring break or winter break rolls around, hey, I want to go to Arizona right now. That'd be nice to go there right now, instead of had to sit there. But, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, last one I've got for you. I might ask this to everybody that comes on because this gives you a little team dynamic too.
Yeah.
Teammate you'd be least annoyed to be stuck in an elevator with. Elevator goes out, you're in an elevator with a teammate. The one that you could survive the best with.
John Powers.
John Powers.
Comes right to mind. I mean, he's a younger linebacker for us, and he's been someone who's really been, asking a lot of questions and doing the right things, and, taking the necessary steps to come from when he was a freshman and walked onto campus to where he's at now. I mean, he's knocking it out of the ballpark right now in camp. So, he's the first person that comes to mind is, if we were stuck in an elevator, we'd be fine.
He's a stud. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Powers is a good
stuff. Yep.
All right, Tucker, thanks for coming out. Everybody's excited to see what you can do. The new era of Panther football. Coach, thanks for another great episode, or a first great episode. Thanks to everybody else out there watching. Again, tune in, cross our social media channels. You'll get clips of the best pod of your day. Plus, you can subscribe to the Panther Point of View to get the audio version. We'll be back all year long. Shout out Carson in the back running all the technical stuff. We'll talk to you again. Go Panthers.